Okay, so this is the criteria. So normally what will happen is when the schools open in August, LCPS will organize the they also call it Academies of Loudoun open houses, where they call in all the parents and they will tell you the exact same details that I'm going to tell you right now, right? So that is the time when the registrations open, right? But the details does not change a lot. Last few years, these are this basically is the eligibility criteria, and these are the parameters they actually take into consideration for the admissions in Academies of Loudoun, right? So there are two programs. One is AET, other one is AOS. One is focused on engineering and technology, other one is focused on science, right? Now the exam is same, the test is same, and the parameters are also same. Now what they do internally is they may take some weightage more in one of the areas while selecting a student for AET versus in some other areas for AOS, because the way these structures work in those courses, right? But overall, if you see the high level parameters that they have given is kind of similar in nature. Number one is student has to be, in fact, student must be enrolled in Algebra 1 or higher at the time of application. It means when the student enters 8th grade in August, he or she should be in Algebra 1. That's number one. Number two, which is quite lenient coming from Academies of Loudoun as compared to TJ, because TJ is very strict on the grades. Academies of Loudoun, final grade of C or higher in math and science courses in your all the grades in the middle school, 6th, 7th, as well as the first semester of 8th grade, right? So if your student is having a lower grade than this, then automatically when you try to register, they will not let you register, right? So these are the important criteria when you register in August, September timeframe. Now on the entrance test, which happens in October, there are two pieces to that: writing assessment and the STEM thinking skills assessment, and I'll go through that in detail what it means actually for the students who are taking the test. Writing assessment, this is basically an essay. They normally get a prompt. I have seen it's mostly scientific prompt in last so many years, since I think 2014. And it's a very, very typical pattern they ask, because it's a scientific essay. That means that they will give you a problem statement which will be related to science, and then they will ask you to do something about that, and you have to write your analysis and how will you go about solving that problem, what will you collect, what evidence will you collect, and things like that, and how do you present it to XYZ entity, right? It can be an NGO, a governmental organization, or some organization where they have to present their study. So it's a very, very typical pattern, and I'll show you an example prompt. But this is the rubric what they have given on their website. So if you go to, there is a link in the presentation. If you go to LCPS website, you will see a example prompt and the rubric, right? So my entire course, when we do the essay writing, we focus on this rubric, or all my evaluations on the students who write these essays are based on the same rubric that is used by Academies of Loudoun, right? Which means that every essay that they will turn in my course, they will get exactly the similar kind of scores in these 5 different parameters under this rubric, right? And I normally, on the trial day or the first class, I will explain students what each and everything means. But basically, it means that when you are talking about something in your essay, then you need to put in some examples. You have to have evidence in there, right? That you are just not talking up in the air. You have done something, some analysis that means something. And if there is limited evidence, you get 1 point. If you have more than 2 examples or 2 pieces of information, you get full evidence. Anything more than 2, you still get 2. But anything which is less than 1, you get a 0, right? So there are different portions in the response which are evaluated differently based on these 5 parameters. Now the example, one of the AET AOS essay topic is, this is an example, right? And most of the examples are around geoscience topics, right? Pollution, geo-energy, nuclear energy, declining bird population, species getting extinct, right? So I have around 100 plus different topics from where they can come in. So that is another thing which I tell students to just read about a little bit during 3 months of my course, because most of the topics are around geoscience, and this is one of the topics, right? Water pollution in lakes. And the way it works is that they will give you a prompt on the top, and then they will ask you 3 questions or 2 questions. Mostly it's 3 questions, sometimes it's 2 questions. Question number 1 is that if you have this problem, how will you investigate, right? So if think about a scientist, when you have a problem, you have to gather some evidence, right? What evidence will you gather, right? And then finally, what evidence will you collect? First thing. Then once you collect that evidence, what will you do with that evidence, right? How will you analyze it? That's second number question. And finally, you have done some research based on the evidence you collected, the research you did. Now, how are you going to present that research to either the local community or to NGOs or to governmental organizations, right? So they have to write about these 3 prompts in a paragraph. And normally they do that is there is an introduction, there is a conclusion, and in between there is an answer to these 3 prompts. So it's typically I think 100 word kind of a. Give me a second. I'm just admitting people. Right. So it's basically an essay they have to write, and it's a timed essay, and I'll show you what the time restrictions are. But normally these are the kind of essays they are asked to write about. And I know it's a little heavy for them. What I have seen is most of the students who come to me, especially most of the students coming from India, they're very good in STEM, but writing scientific essay is where I have to spend a lot of time with them. This is where they need help, and that's in my experience from last 2 batches, and I believe it's not going to change. STEM is something which is easy, and I'll show you some of STEM questions also, which kind of STEM questions that come in, and they're very, very easy, just you need practice. This is little difficult for 8th graders or to be 8th graders to understand and to write in a kind of a way where they can actually explain what they mean by what they're writing, right? So this is where I am going to spend, even though I have 1 hour dedicated to STEM, 1 hour dedicated to essay, sometimes I spend more time on the essay, especially when you will see the scores are not improving over the course. I will obviously naturally spend more time over the essays. On the STEM, it's multiple choice, which is a tick mark. All the kids, they love multiple choice. 25% probability that you will get a right answer, even you just put any check mark anywhere. The topics are out of the box algebra, the spatial relational thinking, tech logic, and scientific thinking. So these questions are not typical math questions. A lot of parents ask me whether they come from algebra or geometry from the school. No, they don't. And I will give you some examples. They are very much out of the box algebra is that your practical algebra. You go to a shop, you get a 20% discount. That was a cost before discount. What is the price you're going to pay after the discount? Or you get 20% plus on the extra, you get an extra 5%. So very, very practical example questions they ask in out of the box. You color a cube, all the sides with red, and you cut that into slices. How many cubes will have sides, 2 sides with red color, something like that, right? So these are the algebra question. Then the spatial relational questions are, you put a thing and you rotate that 90 degrees, how will it look like, right? So there's a lot of questions that come around. You just change the position of an object, how will it look like? And they will give you some options and you have to select an option. Tech logic, normally I have not seen a ton of questions here, but last year there were some AI related questions, like you are asking AI tool these questions and there are 3 answers. What is going to be the 4th answer if I ask this question? And you have to deduce that what will be the next answer based on the last 3 answers, right? So they are just moving a little bit into it's not coding questions, it's not a core technology questions, very, very basic questions on how you think in a technical way. And finally, scientific thinking questions. These are also questions around nuclear energy, potential energy, kinetic energy. Again, very few questions. Most of the questions will be from A, B, and C. D, maybe 1 or 2 questions. So what happens is, when the students take this test and when the results come, you will get whether your student is selected, waitlisted, or not selected. And after that, you will get a score sheet. What we have seen is the score assessment is between 260 to 300 based on the way the answers are given. And a score of, again, this is relative. Every year it changes. But even last year and this year, I have seen the score of 280. If you are 280 or more, you are more likely to get selected. 278 to 280 is mostly waitlisted. Anything less than 278 is not selected, right? But it can change. This is a relative percentile score, which they will share with all the parents after the test results come in April next year. So this is the example of the STEM questions. Again, like I explained, a solid cube, color blue on side, and then cut into smaller cubes. Now these are the questions not taught in the school, so it needs a little different thinking of how to solve these kind of questions. I remember when I was young back in India, we used to do a lot of text question book. I won't call it a regular textbooks, but these were like the logical ability and logical aptitude question books we used to do outside of our school. So these are those kind of questions, right? So the upper one is algebra question. Even though it looks like a geometry question, it is not. It's a pure algebra question. And the one below is basically, this is your scientific thinking. Again, there are some questions which will come in. In fact, this is a logical thinking question, right? So you have to deduce that this is a problem given to you. What do you think is the best answer? And sometimes what I tell my students is, this is not 1-0 kind of an answer. Sometimes there might be 2 good answers. You have to just pick the best answer. Now, even if you pick the second best answer, you are not going to get 0. You are still going to get something, because these kind of questions are very tricky in nature. First best answer will get you maximum marks. Second best answer will get you little less marks. Then there will be 3 wrong choices, totally wrong choices, right? A lot of questions just to confuse the students. They may have 2 good answers. One will be best and one will be a better answer. So you have to choose the best or better to score some marks. So long story short, this is what students will get. 2 components. There are 33 multiple choice questions on the STEM thinking. They get 50 minutes to do that, which means around 1.5 minutes per question. And then there is a one writing assessment, which is for 40 minutes. So overall, if you see, it's a 90 minutes test. And there is a 3,500 character limit, right? It's not a word limit, it's a character limit, including the spaces, which means they have to write around 1.5 to 2 pages. And what will you see in this course is, especially for the trial students next week, when they submit me the essays, you will see the essays will not last more than 1 or 2 paragraphs, or they will not last more than half a page, right? So this is where we need to work, how to express your thoughts in writing in a proper professional way to write a scientific essay, right? So anything less than 3,000 is not good. I think the ideal limit is around 3,200 characters. Anything more than 3,500 is also not good. In fact, the test tool will not even allow you to enter more than 3,500 characters.